on YouTube. I'm just going to test the YouTube page to make sure it's working. Okay, we're good to go.
All right, I'll screen share and Rose can kick us off.
Hello, hello, all. Thank you so much for joining us for this committee meeting. I would like to remind you that we are live, currently streaming to YouTube. And just another reminder that we really value your participation, your interest, and especially your feedback. So if you're interested in sharing your feedback, your comments, your thoughts, there is a link currently on the page at pinellascf.org/ARPA feedback. We encourage you to submit any comments, and then we can consider those, follow up if necessary, and all of those comments will be made public. So we are here today to discuss the request submitted for small capital purchases by small organizations. And a reminder, small organizations is defined by having an annual operating budget less than $500,000. And we will be led today by our committee chair, Ms. Deborah Berry, and we can go ahead and get this started.
All right, so good afternoon, everybody. A review of today's agenda. We'll begin with introductions of all of the members of our staff team that worked on this, and we'll then talk about a little bit of an overview about ARPA and this grant process, give a little update about the process that's going on, and then the committee will work on having a conversation about the scores, and then ultimately, we're not doing LOI recommendations today. Sorry, that got copied over. We're doing actual funding recommendations of small projects or small capital purchases, and then we'll end our meeting when we're complete. So to begin, we'll do introductions of our staff team. I'm Duggan Cooley. I'm the CEO of the Pinellas Community Foundation. I'm very grateful for the committee that has volunteered their time to be a part of this. And to evaluate all the requests and score them. So we'll let our team introduce themselves, and then we'll keep going. Jocelyn, you want to go?
I'm Jocelyn Howard. I'm the Senior Program Officer for ARPA at PCF.
All right, David.
I'm David Bender, the Director of Grants and Operations here. Just a quick thank you to my coworkers and team members just for working so hard on this. It's great to have you, and the committee members as well.
Rose?
Hi there, Rose Cervantes. I am the Program Officer for ARPA, and I'm so excited to be moving along in this process with you.
Great. And Dr. Stephanie Reed.
There, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. I am working on the evaluation, and I've also provided technical assistance during this process.
Thank you. So a little bit of review for today's committee. Prior to today, the committee has reviewed all the eligible and submitted requests in the small purchases grant track. And this is, as Rose indicated earlier, from organizations with operating budgets under $500,000. That's what we have defined today as small organizations. In addition to scores, the committee will be considering the overall community impact, as well as the impact on disproportionately impacted communities. That was a part of their scoring through this grant process as well. Funding recommendations will be made today, and those are recommendations. Ultimately, they'll be sent to the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners that have allocated this funding to the community for the point of supporting nonprofit capital requests. The Board of County Commissioners will complete their final review and approval of projects. And so I'll turn it over to Jocelyn to help us introduce the committee.
We are so grateful to all of our committee members for being here. We would love you to introduce yourselves. We can go in the order of the names on the slide here. And if you would just say your name, short snippet about your professional background, and then just affirming that you have no conflicts of interest with the agencies that applied to the funding. So Erin, we'll start with you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Erin Baird. I'm the Director of Grants at Allegheny Franciscan Ministries, and I don't have any conflicts of interest.
Deborah, we'll go to you next. I think you're muted.
Already starting off. Good afternoon. I'm Deborah Berry. I'm a former operations manager for the Justice Coordination agency within the county. I had oversight of criminal justice related contracts, and I was the grant administrator for drug court grants.
And can you affirm you have no conflicts of interest?
And I have no conflict of interest, yes.
Great.
Thank you, Deborah.
Renelle,
Renelle, we'll go to you.
Okay, Renelle Montgomery, CP Chamber, and I have no conflict of interest in this process.
I'm Rita Morgan. I'm a retired educator and nonprofit administrator. And I've been living in St. Petersburg for 5 years now. So I have confirmation, no, excuse me, no conflicts.
Thank you, Rita. Sheree will finish with you.
Good day, I'm Cherie Wright Jones, and I have served in the Tampa Bay community for several years, both in the philanthropic community, along with working with nonprofits. And I've focused quite a bit of my time with building nonprofits in this space. And I do not have any conflicts of interest.
Thank you. All right, Jocelyn's going to talk a little bit, I think, about the American Rescue Plan Act.
So this is a quick overview. I think all of you are familiar with this, but this funding comes from a federal stimulus that was passed by Congress to provide pandemic relief to nonprofits. And out of the stimulus came the fund that we are now reviewing applications for and administering to nonprofits in Pinellas County. Our county specifically received about $190 million from this fund, and 19 million of that is going towards capital needs for nonprofits. We are working closely with the county to administer this funding, and we have different tracks. So as you've heard today, we're reviewing small purchases for smaller organizations.
Awesome. And so, as Jocelyn mentioned, this has been a wonderful partnership and collaborative project with Pinellas County government, and really to be able to offset this negative economic impact due to the pandemic. That's kind of the focus of this funding. And we determined with the county that we would do that through nonprofit granting efforts to support capital needs in response again to the pandemic. We broke up the ARPA Nonprofit Capital Fund into two separate grant making tracks to begin this program. And that was really derived based on project complexity. So we've had small purchases and large projects. We've met already for the letter of intent for large projects. And today we're focusing in on small capital purchases by those small nonprofit organizations in our community. And for this round of funding and for this subset of the application pool, we received 25 requests, and the allocated amount for this applicant pool was $750,000, and our amount requested that we saw come in was a little bit over 1.5 million. And that's the overview of the request that we'll be considering today. Now, as we continue on with the committee meeting, I'd like to go over a little bit the Q&A protocol. As we talk through requests, committee members may ask your organization a direct question. So they will share that question, and if you are asked, we please require you to raise your hand, and then we will be able to unmute you. And if you're on the phone, you do this process by dialing *9 on the phone. And then you will have 3 minutes, directly 3 minutes to respond to the question. We really encourage you to think in a specific manner to give the information that the community needs and request of you. Keep it short and concise. And after 3 minutes, while we would love to hear from you guys, we will have to mute you promptly at 3 minutes to be mindful of the experience. And with that, that's all the nuts and bolts. And I will go ahead and kick it off to our wonderful chair, Deborah, and we'll start talking about the score breakdown.
Good afternoon again. So we've been provided a list of the grants that and their scores that we all individually scored, and it has been averaged out. As I understand, the first 17, these are the highest scores, and then we have the 19, which with the same score. So we'll start with any questions and concerns or any additional information that the committee members would like to provide. Starting with the first organization, but we can take them as a whole. Do I have any questions or information that the committee members would like to discuss further?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
It's Cherie. Can I
Hi,
just
Cherie.
confirm for just a moment with staff a quick question? If we were to fund 1 through 17 in terms of ranking, we do have funding available to fully fund all of those, is that correct?
Muted. Yes, that adds up to 636,000, those first 17.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee members about the listed grants 1 through 17? We do regarding number 14. There was an inclusion of tires, purchase of tires, and we need to discuss whether or not that is a capital purchase or an operational expense item, which being that if it's operational, it would not be eligible for funding through this program. Any comments from the committee members?
None at this time, Madam Chair. I would be curious to know a little bit more about that expense from that particular organization.
Is a representative from Remember Me,
No.
could they elaborate, or are we taking questions
It's-
at this time?
We can. It's Dunedin Scottish Arts Foundation. 14.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
number
And
14.
they just raised their hand. Should I can go ahead and unmute.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are we ready? Okay.
Yeah. 3 minutes. We'll let him unmute first.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me, folks?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Everett. Mhm.
Okay. The tires, when we were displaced out of our building because of the pandemic, we had to get trailers to store all of the everything that we have. And we put the tires down thinking that that would be a capital expense, since the obvious length of time that tires will be on there is going to be 5 to 10 years before they need to be replaced again. So we felt it fell into the realm of capital instead of operational, since it's not an annual expense.
Any comment from the committee members? Any questions from Mr. Everett? Anything else you would like to add, Mr. Everett?
Concerning the tires, I think that pretty much sums it up for you folks. I'll try to keep it brief for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we make a determination now regarding
I think the committee could talk about whether or not to include the tires with their request if it's granted.
Cherie has her hand raised.
yes,
Oh,
Cherie.
never mind. Never mind.
Oh, never-
It's lowered.
No, I do have a question. I'm just a little unclear about the relation of tires to the entire project based upon the program description and the needs. So perhaps the organization could help me connect the pieces.
Could you sharpen the question a little?
I'm sorry,
Um,
David. Could you repeat it, please?
Sharpen the question a little, like,
Sure. What is the relationship of the tires to the work that you'll actually be undertaking?
there we go. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So Dave is here again, and I unmuted him, and he can talk.
All right, thanks again. Yeah, it's actually critical to the operation of everything that we do. The storage of the equipment for the events that we do for fundraising, for the Dunedin Highland Games, for the Celtic Music Festival, for working with the organizations, providing the classes, all the materials, all of our equipment, everything that we use is in those trailers right now. We have no building facility. We did, and that's where it was stored, where the classes were held. But when the pandemic came, we supported that building through rentals for special events, could no longer hold any special events. We lost our income, therefore we lost the building. So everything that we utilize for all of our programs is stored inside those trailers. And when it comes time for one of our major fundraising events, like November 19th for our Celtic Music Festival, we will transport those trailers to the event so that it can be utilized there. We store things like our tents and other equipment that we use for that in there. And then any other time we need equipment, whatever it might be, we go to the trailers that the city is graciously storing for us, letting us use the City of Dunedin property. We then get whatever we need from there. So that's how the tires go on. They're not a storage trailer per se, they're enclosed trailers, 24 feet long, and everything we own is in those trailers. So we need to maintain proper tires on there, and they're getting pretty rotten and dry cracked. So that's why we need to replace them to keep up with it.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, hope that helps.
So we need to determine whether or not to allow the purchase of tires under this capital project. Any additional questions from the committee?
I just have a comment for me, and I don't know for how we're going to take a vote, but I think based on the explanation, I can understand how they would be used as a capital expense and not necessarily operational. So I would, I would move forward with accepting that piece as a capital expense as a part of the request.
Okay.
So are we going to take individual votes at this time? Okay.
That would be fine on this one to include the tires, sure.
So anyone that opposes? Okay. So we agreed to include the tires in this award. Okay. The next discussion is regarding Second Chance. Number 12. And they included software. Again, there's a concern whether or not the software is operational versus a capital purchase. And is there a representative from that organization that would care to provide additional information?
Yes, we have Liz Siplin, and I'll allow her to talk now.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Ms. Siplin.
See, I think she can
have to unmute yourself.
There you go.
There we go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. The capital, the software is part of the capital programming for this, the different literacy programs that we have, and they would cover the 5-year span of what was required for the grant.
Any questions from the committee members to Ms. Siplin?
And I think part of the question, maybe one of them, there were several pieces of software. I think one of them typically as it comes through is an annual subscription price. And I think our question was maybe about the other two. Is that correct from the staff team? Like SurveyMonkey is annual and it's annualized and not a like a buy it once and it's lasts over 5 years. But I think we're wondering about the other two software applications.
Yeah, I see the initial purchase of the software along with the electronics as being something that's essential, but the continual purchasing of operational software probably should not be included. Any comments from the other committee members?
Yeah, I was just going to ask if we can just highlight what the different software. I'm looking at I guess the O'Reilly one is the one that was just mentioned and it's specific to the programming, but the SurveyMonkey was just mentioned. Is there another one that we were talking about as well?
I'll try to pull it up right now.
Maybe the Autodesk software.
Yes, Autodesk was another one.
And what I'm hearing is that the two program softwares are going to last. The license is going to be good for up to 5 years, if not longer.
Yeah,
Is that
so
correct?
I'm sorry.
I'm
So
sorry.
the AutoCAD is part of the workforce development where we have students coming in and learning IT trade. So that is a sustainable program that would go on. That subscription was priced out for a 5-year period. Also, I'm looking at the O'Reilly Learning is also a IT certification program that would go along with our workforce development and literacy program.
Are those annual costs, or that's a cost, that's a software you can maintain over years, it sounds like?
Well, it's priced out on their website with their representative. It will let you have a 5-year subscription. So it covers the certification that we're trying to do with the students and have them enrolled in.
Okay.
So yes, some software pricing offers reduced costs if you extend the number of years. So the question is, I'm sure they have 1-year pricing. Should we only cover 1-year pricing, or what's in what has been requested?
And I will say our guidance to organizations applying was that if it's a software cost that's a one-time cost that lasts for at least 5 years or longer, it was acceptable. If it was something that gets renewed every year, you end up paying a subscription renewal annually, that was not an acceptable cost to offer. So it sounds like in this case, at least with the two software pieces that are education based, that's a pay one time, and that's a 5-year licensing agreement, it sounds like.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Ziplin.
Thank you.
So committee members, are we agreeable for this allowance as capital, the 5-year software agreement? I need you to say yes or no. So that we...
Yes, we'll just remove the 900 for the SurveyMonkey. Is that what we're proposing?
Well, yeah, that would be part of what their requirements probably are to report out to, how how the participants are benefiting from the program.
So I have I'm sorry, Ariane.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
So the way that I understood it from Duggan was that we could approve 1 year, and and then they would be responsible for the renewing, or as a part of that capital program?
They're all a little different. The sort of the guidance we had given to organizations is if there was a one-time cost of software and it would allow you to have it operational for 5 years or longer, then that would be okay. And because each one of them is different. And so this is a sort of a gray area. Some of them do a lot of work up front, but there's a lot of customization up front. And then, you pay a software fee and maybe there's an annual maintenance fee. Wouldn't include the annual maintenance fee going forward, but maybe at the very beginning to get the whole package and everything off the ground. This one sounds like it's a 5-year, like at least the educational one sounded like a 5-year. There was an option to buy a 5-year license, which I think would be okay. It really was not meant to buy one at a time and something that you pay for over time. But I guess if there was a 5-year option, and that's what they've proposed, that will be paid once and good for 5-ish years.
That's why I just wanted that clarification, because I think I would be okay with that scenario. And then for the SurveyMonkey, I guess either it would be the total disallowance, or either would that be the option of doing the first year, or since it was spread out, or it would be a disallowance totally for the SurveyMonkey.
If that's a cost and it gives you a 5-year, that might be okay, similar to the other ones. But if that's a one-time and then you keep renewing it every year at that amount, that would be a little different. I don't know if that's what they had proposed with SurveyMonkey. I guess that's a question we could ask too. I don't, is it on the paperwork of what that is?
Yeah, it just says that it was it discussed the reasoning for it was to measure their impact and score data, but it didn't give any type of feedback on the years or the breakdown other than in the budget piece.
Mm-hmm. All right.
I can share the budget quickly.
It says 1-year subscription.
Mm-hmm. Based on that, I would not necessarily fund that. It's not going to help them over the longer, not in a capital way, help them over a long period of time like the others appear to be able to do.
I agree. I agree that 1 year's SurveyMonkey subscription would be operational and not a capital purchase. Any other concerns from the committee members? We all in agreement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. The next grant that we need some discussion on is number 16, Gulfport Historical Society. In their request, they included art supplies. And again, are art supplies operation items or capital items?
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, we want to look at the purchase of paint.
Mm-hmm. I think Melissa is here from, there you go. Melissa, are you from the Gulfport Historical Society and the Arts?
Yes, I am
afternoon,
the
Melissa.
operational. Hi, how are you?
Good.
I am the operational manager of the both centers. And when applying for the grant, my intention was to specifically have a startup for our children's programs. So my quantities reflected like a minimum of a year usage on this material that would directly benefit us for at least 4 of the children's exhibits. So the quantities of the gallon size, their large size paints, I felt like it would bring us through an entire year of our children's exhibits and classes. So I could understand maybe how that would be a non-capital and an operational, but I felt like it as a bulk would be considered a capital expense.
Any questions for Melissa from the committee members? So go ahead.
I just have a
Ms.
question.
Montgomery.
So you said over the exhibits, the 4 exhibits, what is that yearly exhibits, or would the exhibits be quarterly? Like, what is the time frame for those 4 exhibits?
It would be within a year's time frame. We specifically have 2 already on the books planned, and we're getting the city to approve 2 other ones. So we've been working with the city on doing classes and then having the kids show this work at exhibits. So showcasing it. So we would actually start, the first one is Waterfront Wonderland, where we'll be having them decorate, you know, little float buoys, the fishing buoys, and paint them for Christmas and all that. So I went with a very basic paint setup that I know that they, you know, it would get us through at least a year. Does that answer? Maybe I'm not answering your question.
No, you did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
This is any other questions? It does appear on the surface to be operational and not necessarily a capital purchase that would be in use for 5 years.
Madam Chair, I'm in agreement with that.
And I would say this only affects about $444.46 of their request. The rest of it is equipment, artist tables, easels, kiln, things like that. The sort of 1 year supply portion is a small portion, $444.46.
Thank you for breaking that out, because that's what I was looking at in terms of like the carts and stuff like that, like, you know, that it would be sustainable beyond the year. So maybe with that exception of the actual art supplies or the paint, as you mentioned, with that dollar amount as a disallowance.
Any other comments? So are we in agreement to remove the paint?
Yes.
We're gonna disallow the paint, but
Yes.
approve the rest of it.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thank you very much.
The next for discussion is number 11, empowerment. The proposal included internet and electrical upgrade. So again, is that a capital expense or operational?
I think the concern was less whether it's capital or operational, but it was indicated as estimated
Oh, okay.
in the proposal, and it might involve property modification, which would not be a fit for small purchases. So those were the concerns raised.
Okay.
It looks like we do have someone here.
Can you hear me? My name's Lou Nappy. I'm representing Empowerment and Amby Stevens.
Thank you, Louis.
I'm the grant writer. Amby hired me a while back, and we've been working on stuff. This goes to her second opening of her Palm Harbor Community Center location. Obviously, the building is they've been in it less than a year. have no idea whether they have a T1 line. Do they need all this infrastructure, or maybe just, hey, plug it into the wall outlet. But when you have 20 computers in each location, that could put a strain on your electrical and whatever, because you got to recharge them. You got printers and stuff like that. So again, without having someone come out, look at the building, and also find a technology firm or service guy to say, hey, this is all going to work. Because the worst thing would be is that, you put all these units in and they don't function, I want to say quickly. That's been the real genesis of this whole grant too, is that we're working with used laptops, used equipment, slow internet, slow software. So again, you can't you service the number of people. The staff is stressed because all they're doing is basically babysitting stuff instead of trying to educate people like that. And like I say, it makes it very, very difficult. So I'm sure too that they'll need things like, they'll see these things in the ceiling. They look like smoke alarms, but they're actually for the internet to boost it and that type of stuff like that. So again, it's kind of a bundle type thing.
So the budget included internet upgrades, 1,800, and electrical upgrades at 1,000, but you really don't know if that's sufficient. Is that?
That's correct. That's correct, but we're willing, obviously, to pay. Again, my strategy here is to, and again, goes back to the laptops too. We're using Dell versus HP. Okay, if we were to be awarded the grant, I would go back in and negotiate, whatever benefits I could relative to each one to say, hey, who can do better? Do we get what we need? And then, like I say, hopefully having money left over for the modifications. But we're more than willing to pay that out of pocket if that turns out to be the case.
I have a question.
Yes.
Would that be, when you're talking about the infrastructure and the modifications, are you talking about the computer systems themselves?
No, I think we're talking about like the electrical panel, the 200 amp service, that type of thing like that. Like I say, that's something that a professional has to investigate and advise us on.
So this request is, hey, give us this initial money and then we'll pay the rest.
Well, yes, that's my thought. Again, my question, this is kind of goes to a general question. Many of these grants obviously are for computers and laptops and whatever. And as everybody knows, that they change quite a bit. So, by the time you order the stuff, the equipment you order may not be exactly the same. How did the committee view that, as long as you stay within the context of a laptop computer, as opposed to, buying something that's totally off the schedule, so to speak? Is that acceptable? Or does it have to be the exact make and model that that it's in the quote? You know what I'm saying?
Well, we requested the quotes from the organizations. There was no specification other than it needed to be a capital purchase.
Right. So is there's some leeway in terms, like I say, in terms of negotiating with these vendors to say, hey, again, you can buy this, a very fast processor or a middle.
I think this is a great place for staff to provide additional comment offline. I think this is absolutely staff.
We've reached 3 minutes, but that will be, if there are changes to this after what the committee approves, will be handled through the contracting process. And the committee was provided everything that the organizations had given to complete their deliberations.
Any other questions of Lewis from the committee members? Okay. Thank you, Lewis.
And I would say from a staff standpoint, like things that are going to involve electrical upgrades to building and facility or running lines and things really, unfortunately, is related to our large capital projects section. And we do have some organizations that submitted in both. But those items really are not movable items that are what the committee needs to consider here.
Okay, we need to determine whether or not to allow or disallow the request for internet upgrades and electrical upgrades.
Madam Chair, based upon what we just learned, in addition to the comments that Duggan just reminded us of regarding the different pots of funding and how they would be used, I suggest that we do not allow funding for that particular line item.
Any other comments?
I support that recommendation.
So do I. That would be for the internet upgrade and electrical upgrades.
I agree as well.
Okay.
So that would lower the grant amount to $29,845.
So the awards 1 through 17, are there any other comments that the committee would like to engage in? So as I understand, number 18 and 19, they have the same average scores.
Mm-hmm.
And the grants below are there's they will not be funded at this time under this particular program.
The committee is welcome to discuss that if there are, anything below the line, but the funding allows full funding all the way to under number 17. And then the committee will need to talk about how to handle projects 18 and 19, but there's not money to go below 19.
So let's first discuss number 18 and 19 with the same average scores.
And I just want to clarify, the reason they're in 1819 is because of alphabetical order. There truly is no difference between the scores.
Yes. So
I will stop sharing.
Thank you. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I have a question about number 17, the gathering of women.
Yes.
I was just wondering about I would just like some information on sustainability of purchasing. I believe they were requesting 2 vehicles, and I was just concerned based on the size of their budget, the ability to maintain and sustain the maintenance. So I don't know if anybody is available from that organization just to have a couple of more questions.
1 second. Samantha, I'm coming for you. Don't worry. I got you. There we go.
Hi, Samantha. You're muted right now.
Hi.
Hi, Samantha. Would you like me to?
Could you please?
Yes. So my concern was just based on the size of your organization and the budget, the viability of having 2 vehicles to be able to maintain and support, and what type of plan would be in place to make sure that maintenance was, that funding was available to maintain the autos being used or the vehicles.
We have put that into a plan that we would do constant fundraising to offset the additional costs of maintaining 2 vehicles. So far, the church that we're housing has agreed to help us with any additional costs that we don't meet with our fundraising efforts.
And have you determined like a total of what that would look like in terms of the maintenance?
The maintenance would be more just to keep the upkeep, the insurance, the oil changes and things of that sort. For the to cover it, the church has now installed cameras. So if we did get approved, those vehicles would always be targeted so that we'll know what's going on with them. But basically, those are our upkeep that we think about our insurance costs, our oil choice, our oil costs, just make sure that the car is constantly in the best condition possible. And we've not knowing whether we would get this, we had already begun our fundraising, just in case, you know, to keep money aside for it.
Thank you for that. That's like I said, that was just my concern. And I didn't know if maybe, you know, starting off with 2 vehicles versus 1 would be an easier process, but thank you.
Yeah, it would definitely help us because currently I'm one of the drivers and I deliver twice a week in my car. Another one of the drivers, she does the same thing. So it would give us the ability to serve more people with a larger vehicle. I have an Altima, so, you know, I serve Clearwater. So I'm back and forth. This would allow me to do my deliveries twice, but in different locations.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions from the other committee members? Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
To start off with number 17 and 18, excuse me, 18 and, hold on a minute, let me go back to the slide. Thank you. 18 and 19, they're in alphabetical order. Remember Me, can you put the budget up for Remember Me?
Yes, just 1 second.
So right now we're deciding on which organization, either Remember Me or Wolf Warrior Outdoor, should receive the remaining funding.
David can let us know because I think it's one of those you can fund one of them completely and one of them partially.
There's a little under 49. Let me see. There's either between 49 to 39,000 remaining if you fully fund one of them. And I will pull up that budget summary now for Remember Me.
And this was for their sole request was for a van. The only thing that we had as a question was in the estimate. They had included 2 estimates, but in the one that they based their total cost off of, it included vehicle tax of $3,688.22. And as a nonprofit, they should be exempt from that vehicle tax depending on how they purchase and register the vehicle. So there could be a little bit of cost savings there.
Could you restate that tax amount, Duggan?
$3,688.22.
Thank you.
I think Mike just question or not hesitation, but once again, a small organization with a small budget and being able to maintain the equipment and the vehicle maintenance, but I'm fine.
And there might be someone that you can ask that of here today too. We have a hand up from Leslie Lightsey, I think. She may be from the organization. We can ask her.
Yeah, I had that concern also because they're annual budget was roughly 16,000, and they're requesting, the purchase.
Thank you for those
Okay.
comments. I also noted that they also have a very small board. And so when I think about the work they're trying to undertake, heavy lift.
So I think then actually Nanette Prevost is from the organization, and I think we unmuted her. So she
And-
could speak to the committee.
Should we separate the questions out? Because we kind of threw multiple issues out.
Maybe start with maintenance of maintaining the vehicle, and then can ask the other questions about board size. So we'll start with vehicle maintaining and upkeep of the vehicle was a committee question.
Hi, Nanette.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me okay?
Yes. So the first question is about maintaining the vehicle or your small budget. Your small budget for such a large purchase. How are you able to maintain this asset?
So with all that being said, I have just landed a contract with the city of Largo, a grant. And I also just got a phone call today from the Apple Corporation that wants to partner with me right now. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. And I do have the money. I will have the money, and I do have the money to keep the upkeep on this vehicle. But it's very important. I did put down that vehicle. I did get other estimates, but the reason why I put that one down was because it's the only van that they make 14 feet in a cargo space. And what I do is very unique. One of the programs is I haul paddleboard and water gear out to people. So I'm like pretty much a mobile response team. I'm able to travel within the community of Pinellas County, because I know it's a hardship of people always reaching me. So I'm pretty much work out of that. I would work out of that van, and it'll be also storage, and it will transport board equipment. That's the longest paddleboard that I own is Paddle for Prevention. One of the boards I own is 14 feet long. So that's how that van came up opposed to other vans. But as far as the maintenance and the insurance and all that, that would not even be a responsibility that I would even look as part of this funding. I'm just trying to get the van in order to get the transportation out to the community. And right now I'm using my own vehicle, and it's a 2006 Saturn Vue that I try to smush all this gear in, and it has 130,000 miles on it. So if that answers the question a little bit there. I'm a suicide prevention and narcotic prevention overdose nonprofit. And so all of us in this nonprofit, I'm a first responder, I'm a surgical nurse, still operating at Morton Plant, but my board members are growing since what you've seen. And my board members are all physicians and nurses and mental health counselors.
And how many are actively on your board currently?
I have 4.
Any other questions?
I don't. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Nanette.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Can you display the Wolf Warrior Outdoor Leadership budget?
Yes, one moment. Can everyone see okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great.
So their request is 75,000 for a command trailer. Is there any discussion or questions from a representative that the committee members may have?
I would just be curious to hear more about the negative economic impact and how this project relates to the negative impact of COVID. So
I can find.
So we have a representative. It's like Sarah.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Can you? Okay. Thank you for your time today. I appreciate your review. The importance of this trailer is for STEM-related outreach programs. And I think we can all agree that the pandemic really pushed us behind in classroom and career-oriented teaching. So this trailer would allow us to reach out to K through 12 students in the Pinellas County Schools District, predominantly in the south side of St. Petersburg, and provide them important lessons, both by the first responders as well as engineers and the drone pilots that are FAA certified to teach our curriculum. So yeah, I think I violently support the ability to teach STEM through drones, because of the fact that students have unfortunately been online to learn things, and probably were completely saturated in online classrooms. This allows the ability not only to teach at their specific location during school hours, but it gets them outside and gets some hands-on training with not only how to operate a drone, but how to build a drone. So it's an exciting program, and if this does get funded, I think it will be a game changer in terms of getting the students involved with drones and possibly design programs. And ultimately, what's really exciting is if they are excited about this program over the summer, they're all eligible to apply to a specific first responder exercise that we put on with our local first responders, local, state, and federal. This past year was with the U.S. Coast Guard. So they're all, we work together with the students as well as the teachers to nominate potential students who can then be part of the scholarship program over the summer, where they can participate.
We have a little bit, about 30 seconds, and I just want to make sure the question that Aaron asked gets answered, which is about the negative economic impact of the pandemic on the organization. I think, Aaron, is that correct?
Yes, yeah. I mean, do you have any comments about that financial impact?
The financial impact on us? Yeah. We weren't able to, we as an organization, Soft Wolf or Wolf Outdoor Leadership for the Future, was not able to function during that year. And therefore we are behind the 8 ball in getting these kids educated on engineering curriculum.
Okay.
Is that okay? Or were you looking for some other, was I not addressing your questions accurately, or?
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions of Sarah?
Yes, I do. One of my comments, or what I was looking at, is that the request was for 75% of the trailer cost. So the other information was, it seemed like they had applied for additional grants to support it. So my question is there doesn't seem to be a guarantee, but for that 25,000. So what does that look like in terms of if you were granted the $75,000? Or I just want to make sure that we're not putting you're granted $75,000, but then not able to match or get grants. What is the plan to make up the difference if you do not receive those grants?
Thank you for your question. That's very important. We have actually achieved that 25 already. We are doing a fundraiser, and I've raised approximately 10,000 in tickets for that fundraiser, which occurs this coming Saturday. And you're all invited if you'd like. It's a masquerade, but we also were just told that we were awarded another 15,000
in grant funds from another resource. We have an NSF proposal that will allow us the operational overhead expenses to go against that. So we are well funded, and we also work with the private sector donations that also have corporate social responsibility programs to bring in any remaining operational costs that are needed to support this effort.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have one comment for consideration. The bids that were, well, they weren't really bids that were submitted. They were like copies or details of what the cost would be, but nothing was on any specific logo or letterhead from actual vendor. So that's my concern, is that this was just the prices were typed up, but we really don't have any specific supporting documentation, if I'm saying that right.
Mhm.
No, that's a good question. What happens in my collection of quotes was actually by phone and then by email. So I did cut and paste the quotes from the vendors. So that is how I submitted it. If you would want it in a different format or on their stationery, I could request that they send that over as well. So if there's a shortcoming in that, in the format, let me know and I can correct it.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
So I believe the instructions were to screenshots or because I know there were some submittals that were from an via email from a vendor. So are there, my concern is that we really don't have an exact bid directly from a vendor right now. Is there any comments from the other committee members?
I understand that concern.
And I think it sort of tracks with the comment that was made that it was done by phone. But I think if the committee has questions about the nature of the bids to get more clarification or comfort.
So do we need more clarification, or are we ready to decide on which organization to one out of Remember Me and Wolf Warrior Outdoor, which one to fund fully and possibly the other partially? Are we ready, or do we need additional discussion on Wolf Warrior?
I'm ready.
So which organization, Remember Me or Wolf Warrior Outdoor Leadership, do you want to apply the additional full funding amount?
Between the two, I would choose Remember Me.
I second that. For full funding.
Yes.
Agreed.
I agree, minus the sales tax.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. So for Wolf Warrior Outdoor Leadership, what was the amount that's remaining out of the program funding?
So let's do a couple things, David, with the spreadsheet, if you want to pull it up for everybody, and we can do some changes of values if you want to, and then you can know exactly how much is left.
Let me do that real quick now. Let's see.
Madam Chair, while David's pulling that up, I do think it would be important that staff work with Wolf to ensure that the bids are in a format that we have agreed to and kind of what we've seen aligned with the other request. So as you mentioned, some of them were done by phone call, having some more formality to that to satisfy some of the concerns around the table, even if we consider them for partial funding. But I think that's something that staff can absolutely work on and then, move it forward if they support and supply that information.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
So I want to make sure I've done this correctly. I changed empowerments.
Mm-hmm.
I changed second chance. I reduced by 900.
Mm-hmm.
Gulfport Historical, I reduced by $444.46.
Mm-hmm.
Were there other changes? Remember me, I reduced the sales tax.
I think that was it. If you want to
Okay, let me. That is 694,345.77. I
think if my math is correct, that leaves $55,654.23. Does that work with your
yes.
math? That would fund everything 1 through 18 on the list fully, with some exceptions that took some things out, and leave a balance to allocate of $55,654.23.
That was 1.5 is cut off. That brings us to 750,000 exactly.
If you wanted to award partial funding to one, and I think if you do, the committee should talk about the feasibility of that.
So are we prepared to award the remaining amount to Wolf, or should we, should they provide the estimates from the vendor before decision is made? That's, any comments from the committee members?
I think if there's an opportunity for us to provisionally recommend it pending them working with staff to provide the bids, then maybe we can move forward with it. I'm just trying to think about timing and us convening another meeting just to make a decision around this one. But again, I'm open and flexible to you, Madam Chair, and the committee.
My thought is that they're further away from the initial. So now they were 25,000. There was a gap. Now there's an additional 20,000. So that was just, my concern.
Should we hear from them to see it? I mean, if we're going to provide it provisionally, should we hear from them to determine whether or not they're willing to accept the lesser amount and pending the middle of the bids? Or
I think that's a great suggestion, and that I raised the flag earlier regarding partial funding for organizations. So, Madam Chair, I think that makes complete sense to speak with the organization now about it and then move forward from there.
So, Rita, are you so I think too, we want to determine, are we considering or the partial funding pending the submittal of actual bids? Is the committee agreeable to that before we reach out to Wolf?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, I guess so. Yeah. The bids would help.
Okay, all right. I'm agreeable also. Okay, if we could hear from Wolf regarding the submittal of the bids from a vendor and the partial funding. Hi,
Yes.
Sarah.
Hi, thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, it's still doable. It's going to be harder, but it's still doable. And if you need me to get quotes on the specific stationery or other required formats, I'm more than happy to provide that. So yes, it's still doable, and we'd really appreciate any consideration you have for the remaining funding for this important endeavor.
Okay, any additional questions? Sarah? Okay, thank you, Sarah. And of course, staff, are we on the, is this doable to?
I guess I just wonder, like, I see how we've seen many proposals and everybody submitted bids in different ways. And so I think what was said before was this was obtained by phone. And these might have been some emails that came through and that was copied and pasted into this format. So I think from our standpoint, we just need the full email that came over to verify that from the company, not just the copy and paste into the format that was uploaded would be part of it. And I think the other piece of it is this will have to go before the Board of County Commissioners as well for their approval before anything happens. But if this goes to contract, we need to make sure that they could raise the other portion before we release the funds.
Okay. And the committee members are agreeable?
Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Good.
Thank you,
I will-
everybody. And thanks
I'll
to
pull
the
up,
organizations. I'm sorry.
I'll pull up for a final motion on all the recommended amounts. I don't know why there's a percentage there.
Oh.
So we're ready to, so do we have a motion to accept the funding awards 1 through 19 as listed?
So moved.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. So we can raise our hands, we can see everybody to approve. Motion carries, thank you.
5.
And thanks to the organizations for their diligent work in submitting their proposals and to the
Yes.
staff also.
They really did a nice job.
Yes.
Wonderful job. Thank you to the committee. Thank you for investing your time and working on that many proposals to review and go through. But thank you very much for spending time to do that and meeting today. This is important and I think just fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you for the
everybody.
opportunity to serve.
Thank you.
And then if the committee wants to hang on and end the live broadcast, we can just make sure that they know what's happening next and next steps in the process too.
Okay, and organizations.
There's no way to.
Oh, it's fine.
We can come
That's
back
fine.
on.
Can we log out and then come back on?
Oh, we can talk about it here. I just want to remind everybody that this will go to the Board of County Commissioners for their review and approval. We'll be giving David and the team, do you know a date that we'll be providing sort of official notice to organizations about their the final recommendations here?
A confirmation that they've been recommended, I would say within 7 days.
Okay.
Again, that is not an award letter. That is a confirmation of the actions of the committee today. And we will be sending them over to the county shortly. We also have another committee meeting tomorrow, so it will not happen before end of day tomorrow.
Wonderful. All right. Any other questions of the committee before we adjourn ourselves?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Great.
Much appreciated.
Thank
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.